Hey everyone, we're back to share some more dreams, visions, and spoken words from Yahuwah. We are currently in Asuncion, Paraguay. We ended up leaving Costa Rica in the big rush after receiving some very stern warnings from Yahuwah. We will be sharing what Yahuwah has told us and shown us about floods and disasters that are coming upon the earth, and sharing our journey of escaping Babylon. We will share these prophecies in date order as we have received them. The dates and times we received them will be in the comments. Please heed the warnings. Let us get started. Yahuwah said, "Who needs insurance? There ain't no flood coming." This is a rhetorical expression of false security, the belief that judgment or disaster will not occur. Therefore, preparation is unnecessary. We know that this couldn't be further from the truth. Now is the time to prepare our hearts and minds for what is to come. Luke 17:26-30 shows us that there will be normalcy before sudden judgment. And as it comes to be in the days of Noah, so shall it be in the days of the Ben of Adam. They were eating, they were drinking, they were marrying, they were given in marriage, until the day that Noah went out of the ark, and the flood came and destroyed them all. And likewise, as it came to be in the days of Lot, they were eating, they were drinking, they were buying, they were selling, they were planting, they were building. But on the day Lot went out of Sodom, it rained fire and sulfur from the Shamayim and destroyed all. It shall be the same in the day the Ben of Adam is revealed. It's just like today. People believed that judgment was not coming until it did. Yahuwah said, "With all the rains and disasters, I will purchase flood insurance." Yahuwah is our flood insurance. Wisdom establishes security. Ecclesiastes 7:12 says, "For wisdom protects as silver protects, but the advantage of knowledge is that wisdom gives high to those who have it."
I had a dream that I had just got bailed out of jail by some friends of mine, which was my old way of life before Yahuwah rescued me. I was trying to get home to my mom and daughter. People were saying that massive floods were coming on the earth, and there were only going to be pockets of survivors left. And I fell back asleep, and I woke up because Yahuwah said a problem with floods coming on the earth. Then in a vision, I saw a map that said the Yucatan, and this was very disturbing since we were staying in the Yucatan, Mexico, on the beach when I had this dream. So while we were still in Mexico, I had a vision too, and I saw that they were closing down all the public beaches, and they were posting signs everywhere and making everyone to leave. And then that same day, it was about an hour later, and we were eating breakfast, and I had an open vision when I was awake. And in the vision, I saw myself on top of a concrete building, and there was rushing water flowing past me and everywhere, and people were frantically climbing up these buildings, trying to get up on top of them so they wouldn't get washed out to sea with the flood. And I kept remembering how people on Facebook were saying, "He promised not to flood the earth again." Then I looked up in the vision in the sky, and I saw a rainbow. It's like, how strange. So I went to look at what Genesis 9:11 says about Yahuwah's covenant never again to destroy all life with the flood. He didn't say he wouldn't bring floods and disasters, but that the whole earth would not, all flesh wouldn't be wiped out. He said, "I shall establish my covenant with you, and never again is all flesh cut off by the waters of the flood, and never again is there a flood to destroy the earth." Okay, after that, we went to Costa Rica, and right after we got there, I had a dream. I was at a restaurant. There was a beautiful view of the beach in Costa Rica, and I was sitting talking with my mom and sister, and I had a bunch of bags with me, luggage, and then suddenly, without any warning, I could see a tsunami coming. So I started hurrying to pick up all my stuff and put it in the bags that I had all around me. I was telling them, "We have to hurry and grab everything," because I could see a huge tidal wave coming. Then, as the wave was getting ready to overtake us, I said, "I'm a bagagé." Had no idea what that meant. And I looked it up. It's Spanish. A Spanish word that means baggage or luggage, which could symbolize having too much worldly goods and the cares that come with them. So I took this as a warning to guard against having too many possessions. In Luke 12:15, it says, "And he said unto them, Take heed and beware of covetousness, for a man's life consists not in the abundance of things which he possesses." So the very next day, while we were still in Costa Rica, I had a dream. And I was woken out of my sleep in the middle of the night by a very loud siren. It was so loud. And it was going off, and it was an evacuation siren. Then, a little bit later in the dream, a man said to me, "How ready are you to go home?" And I told him, "I guess I'm less ready than I thought." Well, Romans 13, verses 11 through 14 calls us to wake up from sleep. It says, "And that, knowing the time, that now it is high time to wake out of sleep. For now is our Yeshua nearer than when we believed. The night is far spent, the day is at hand. Let us therefore cast off the works of darkness, and let us put on the armor of light. Let us walk honestly as in the day, not in rioting and drunkenness, not in chambering and wantonness, not in strife and envying, but put ye on the Adonai Yahushua HaMashiach, and make no provision for the flesh to fulfill the lust thereof." So after that, I had another vision, and I saw a big blue sign, and it said on the sign, "Elevation drop off." Then Yahuwah said, flee low-lying areas. So at that time, we were still in Costa Rica, which of course is a very low-lying area. And 5 days after that, I had another vision, and I saw rushing water again. And then there was a river, and all 3 of our suitcases were just kind of bobbing, floating down it. Then Yahuwah said, "Rivers and suitcases."
This is when we realized that we were still in Babylon. We read in 2nd Esdras 15:34 through 44 about the terrible cloud and judgment upon Babylon. Here it is. "Look, clouds from the east and from the north to the south, and they are very horrible to look upon, full of wrath and storm. They shall clash against one another, and they shall bring down a great number of storms on the earth, even their own storm. And from the sword there shall be blood to the waist, and dung of men to the camel's hock. And there shall be great fear and trembling on the earth, and those who see the wrath shall be afraid, and trembling shall come upon them. And then great storms shall come from the south and from the north, and another part from the west. And strong winds shall rise from the east and shall prevail, and the clouds which he raised up in wrath, and the storm stirred up, causing fear towards the east and west wind, shall be destroyed. The great and mighty clouds shall billow full of wrath, and the storm with which they made all the earth afraid, and those who dwell in it. And they shall pour out a horrible storm over every high and lofty place, fire and hail and flying swords and many waters, so that all fields and all rivers shall overflow with the exceedingly great amount of waters. And they shall break down the cities and walls, mountains and hills, trees of the forest and grass of the fields and its grain. And they shall move steadily onto Babel and cause her fear. They shall come to her and besiege her, pouring out the storm and all wrath upon her. Then the dust shall smoke, and smoke shall go up to the Shamaim, and all those who are around her shall bewail her. So about a week later, while we were still in Costa Rica, I had a vision, and I saw a picturesque mountainside along the coast, and it was actually a really great view that we had driven by several times while we were there. Saw that in a dream, and suddenly water came rushing down the side of this mountain. And then Yahuwah said, and at the last second, 2 days later, my mom, sister, and myself and our Tika friend were riding in an SUV through the jungle in Costa Rica after visiting this gorgeous waterfall and river. When out of nowhere, I started hearing that Guns N' Roses song in my head, "Welcome to the Jungle." The part I heard was, "Do you know where you are? You're in the jungle, baby. You're gonna die." I was like, oh, it was shocking because I don't listen to secular music at all anymore, and I haven't for 8 years. Then 2 days later, while we were still in Costa Rica, Yahuwah said, "We got to get out of here now. Bad things happen when we don't heed warnings." Proverbs 22:3 talks about the path of discernment versus the path of folly. A prudent man foresees the evil and hides himself, but the simple pass on and are punished. So we decided we had better heed these warnings ASAP. We really wanted to stay longer, but we were afraid of being in disobedience to what Yahuwah told us to do. So we packed our things and got plane tickets to Asuncion, Paraguay. Scripture warns us in Proverbs 29:1 about the stubbornness after warning. He that being often reproved hardens his neck shall suddenly be destroyed, and that without remedy. Bad things happen when we ignore wisdom's call. Proverbs 1:24-27 says, "Because I have called and ye refused, I have stretched out my hand and no man regarded. But ye have set at naught all my counsel and would none of my reproof. I also will laugh at your calamity. I will mock when your fear comes. When your fear comes as desolation and your destruction comes as a whirlwind, when distress and anguish come upon you."
Terrible. Excuse me. So after we got to Paraguay, I was hoping that all the water, dreams, and visions would be over, a thing of the past. But shortly after we got here, I can't remember how long, we were in our 4th floor apartment, and I had a vision that there was a big storm, and I saw water coming in from underneath the door on the 4th floor apartment that we were staying at. And then Yahuwah has also since told us, propina, flee the city. Well, in Spanish, the word propina means tip or advice. So obviously in this context, it functions as a warning or a counsel that we're to leave the city. We know that water can represent overwhelming trials. It can be physical, but it can also have a spiritual meaning in the scriptures, and oftentimes it's both. So we prayed about where we need to go next. We know we need to leave the city and to avoid low-lying areas. The book of Netzarim, chapter 9, verses 59-61, talks about building on a firm foundation. This is what Yahusha said. He said, "Some hail me as their leader, thinking this will help them in the life to come, but it will not. Only those who wholeheartedly serve the cause and the purpose of Yahuwah will enjoy this in full splendor. Many who do things in my name will expect me to intercede for them, but to these I will say, I did not know you or authorize the statements you made. By your deeds shall you be punished. This does not apply to those who, hearing my words, put them into practice, for they are like the sensible man who built his house on a foundation of rock. The rain poured down and the floods rose. The wind howled above and beat against the house, but it did not collapse because it was set firmly. But there will be many who, hearing these words of mine, will ignore them. And these may be likened to a foolish man who built his house on the sand. The rain poured down, the floods rose, and the wind howled and beat against the walls, and the whole house collapsed." The parable really illustrates the importance of not only hearing the words of Yahuwah, but also obeying them. One morning, I woke up because it was storming and raining really hard outside. And Yahuwah said that thunder and lightning is pretty scary. I thought, that's kind of weird, but it was really scary. Then I fell back asleep, and I had a vision of Asuncion, the city we're currently in, and the whole city was filling up with water, like a pitcher being poured into a punch bowl. So I look in the Wisdom of Solomon 5 describes Yahuwah's judgment through creation. It says, "He shall take his ardor as complete armor and make creation his weapon for the vengeance of his enemies. He shall put on righteousness as a breastplate and true judgment in place of a helmet. He shall take Kodashah for an invincible shield. He shall sharpen his severe wrath as a sword, and the earth shall fight with him against the foolish. Then the thunderbolts aimed true shall go out, and from the clouds as from a well-drawn bow. They shall fly to the mark, and hailstones filled with wrath shall be thrown as a stone out of a bow, and the water of the sea shall rage against them, and the floods shall cruelly drown them. A mighty wind shall also stand up against them, and blow them away like a storm. So wickedness shall lay waste the whole earth, and evil works shall overthrow the thrones of the mighty. So we won't be staying in Ascension long term. We will just be here long enough to get our temporary residency and to get everything in order. Thank you all for taking the time to join us. We are planning on bringing more dreams, visions, and spoken words about World War III that Yahuwah has shown us and told us on the next video. And we hope to see you then. Bye.
Bye.